All right, first off, this is This Life Updates intro. This AI thing Google put out recently is crazy. I just submitted my old Life Update email doc to it, and it sounds like real people read it and are discussing it. You have to check this out. And there's a link, so go listen to that. Pause, go listen to that, and come back. Even just read the summary it generated. The text is a log of a user's life update. The text is a log of a user's life experiences, detailing their activities and thoughts, interspersed with their reflections on the various people they interact with and their relationship to those individuals. The user frequently employs the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator to analyze the people around them and uses terms like the Dom and NI Flair to describe the personality types and their associated traits. In addition to sharing their personal experiences, the user also discusses topics such as anime, health, and nutrition. They also provide a list of resources that they recommend, such as a website for genetic testing and a list of foods for optimal health. Yeah, absolutely insane where AI is getting these days. So make sure you listen to it, 'cause it's crazy cool. One of these days, I'll read an entire life update with that inflection. Second, let me give you the cancer plan and status. So basically, here's where I'm at. I'm going to be attempting Alex Cure Himself of Cancer 2.0, but with some significant adjustments. First, I've consulted with and will be consulting with some genuine experts in the oncology and trying to glean from their knowledge. Second, I'm going to be doing a number of different things. First and foremost, let's talk about dieting. See, in the naturopathy world, as I've experienced it, there's basically two sides. The rah-rah plants team and the meat is for men team. I've previously been an enthusiastic plantist, but I'm converting to the meat men side, and I'm going to give that a shot. What that looks like is very Atkins-like diet with an emphasis on staying in therapeutic ketosis, aka I only eat meat. I've seen a lot of good research on how depriving the cancer of any carbohydrates can be very effective, so we're going to be giving that a shot. Aside from the diet change, I'm also adding 3 drugs/supplements to my regime that should be cytotoxic to my cancer in particular. The top 3 things that showed cytotoxicity according to my RGCC test, as well as taking measures to help ensure better absorption and adding other pathway blocking drugs. The absorption story is complicated, but let me give a summary. I have it on good authority, Maya, who you will later read about, that a plant-based diet reduces supplement absorption by 40 to 50%. The reasons for this are complicated, and you can ask me about it later. Moreover, I have both variants of the MTHFR genes, which, in addition to harming my ability to detox, also harms my ability to take in nutrients due to them causing my reduced ability to methylate. Hence, I'm going to be taking methylated B vitamins to help with that. Also, I have the COMT gene, thank you genetic testing, which further means I metabolize things quite rapidly, and hence the fact I was taking the vast majority of my pills in a 6-hour window, because that was my intermittent fasting window, and in large doses, means it's likely I was only actually absorbing a small part of what I ingested. Hence, from now on, I will be spreading my pills across the whole day and spreading each substance as thin as possible to maximize odds of absorption. I will still be doing intermittent fasting with a 6-hour eating window, but I'll be taking my pills outside that window. So basically what I'm saying is there's a good chance what I was doing didn't work because I wasn't actually doing it. AKA, yes, I was taking the drugs, but they weren't actually reaching my cells. I am now taking every measure I'm aware of to make it so that the nutrients actually get to my cancer. Aside from that, I'm going to up my infrared sauna regimen to heating and cooling myself 3 times in a row because I've been told that necessary, not just doing it once. That will take about an hour 30 a day. As well as I'll be starting intravenous vitamin C 3 times a week. Some friends of my parents told me about a place that does it locally, which is fantastic. Of course, I'll keep up my exercise regimen, and I'll also keep reading and learning more, as well as keep shifting which drugs I'm taking and in what doses. But basically, that's the gist of the modifications to Alex's new Kill Cancer Like a Boss plan. However, because I've still got that situation with my artery, which I have no new info on, by the way, and also don't know why that hasn't killed me yet, so that's fun. Just counting on whatever was working to keep on working, XD. I've put through backup plans in place. First off, I'm ready to move at a moment's notice with an alternative cancer center in Arizona, which I'm fairly impressed with. AKA, I've completed their whole onboarding process, which took like 2 weeks. However, they also cost literally $75,000 for 8 weeks, not including room and board. So that's why I haven't been done, at least in part, because man, is that a lot of money, which I very much don't have. Plus, people have been so generous to give me so much to put toward everything I've done so far. I can't imagine asking for a sum like that, ... Second, I found an oncologist that's willing to give me PEM-GVD, part 1 of salvage, without the stem cell transplant, part 2 of salvage. This is very good because while, PEM-GVD super sucks, it nevertheless isn't the nuclear option that beam full-body chemo is. Hence, that makes salvage a live option because now conventional treatment doesn't guarantee nuked organs, just heavily fried organs. And that's something I obviously wouldn't prefer, but can live with if it comes down to it. Plus, the PEM-GVD statistics are just god tier. 100%. Do you hear that? 100% experience some tumor response, while 95% experience complete remission. Those numbers are so spectacular, that's almost certainly where I'm going if my homebrew cancer cure doesn't work out in round 2. But things are still being learned and found out. I'm flying out to MD Anderson, the world-class lymphoma experts in Texas, in about a week, and who knows, maybe they will give me new info. Plus, they will be testing my tumor biopsy sample, which has been frozen in a lab somewhere all this time. And I'm hoping they will do more than just tell me, yep, it's Hodgkin's lymphoma. But the point is, things are moving and shaking, and I'm feeling hopeful. Backup plans are in place, and things are coming together. So while, yes, the situation is still bad, it could most certainly be worse. Hence, in summary, that's the cancer update. Anyway, let's pick up where the last life update left off, shall we? I worked on building pillboxes, was successful. Then I worked on building my nut regime and, due to time constraints, ate as I did so. That took a chunk of time, but I got it done. Lol, not like it mattered in the end, ... like that song says. I don't know what song they're talking about. I also listened to a personality hacker while doing that. Then thereafter, I played volleyball with the LMT people before then going over to Beth's house and talking with her, during which the time included a supervised walk? Her parents thought me and her walking alone was a sketch, apparently, so her brother accompanied us. It was an interesting experience, XD. But regardless, it was good, and I definitely got to know Beth quite a bit better. And then, once I got home, I just chilled, and I think I did cancer reading, and that was the day. The next morning, I went to church, and Grace and I were twinsies, aka we wore matching outfits. I then did a brief social before Grace was like, and we are leaving, and because I carpooled to church with her, I was forced to vacate the premises. At home, I did Funime, and then Benj, Joe, Neo, and I all went shopping at Games Ahoy, in which I bought lands as well as a few cool commander cards. Then Benj and Joe came back to my house and looked through their bulk as I built magic decks. Once they left, I finished the cancer book I was reading, where this lady interviews all the people who are successfully curing cancer. Hence, I have a pretty good handle on what alternative treatments are out there. Then I worked out while listening to Mistborn, did Funime with Katie, Emerson, and Grace, and then we had a super fun drive. Basically, everyone just piled into my Phoenix, and all 4 of us just sang along to super loud and good music while driving through the back road canyons, until we reached that super cool cave tunnel Ben had taken us to. However, because our dominant population no longer had SC, but rather NE, we did not traverse the cave tunnel as before, but rather ventured shallowly into its entrance and sang in the resonance. Then, because of time restraints, we went back. And while that might not sound like all that eventful of a night, I actually loved it. Like probably my favorite experience of the last month. I just enjoyed those people so much and felt so comfortable with, and 0% like I had to socially perform. And it was just fun. Really good time. The next morning, I woke up early for a blood draw, did that, called Dr. Pavlovich, and rescheduled our meeting till after my upcoming PET scan, and then finished editing the last life update. I then did work, and did my best to interpret my blood work during that time, had an encounter with the dance instructor that I'm pretty sure has a crush on me at work, because she goes to HES. Not sure what that is. So that was a touch odd, but we navigated it well. Also, I would like to make it clear, I think I actually did pretty decent in that dance class. While it could just be cancer pity, my instructor gave me a pretty glowing review. Also, they didn't know I had cancer. None of my classmates did, just because I wanted to live normally. But dance people were honestly super kind about it. Like, I did not expect nearly that much care from people I hardly knew. But regardless, this is what the chief instructor, not the one who liked me, emailed me after I told her I wouldn't be coming back to class. I want to say thank you for letting me know what was going on. I really appreciate this, and I know everyone will be sending you so much love and support. I also want to share something with you. On Thursday after class, during the debrief with the pedagogy students, we were talking about how the class was doing in the midterm material. I put my hand on my sternum and said, "What about Alex? He was dancing so beautifully today." Everyone jumped in, and we were all talking about how amazing it was to see you do that last combination. This is not the first time that we had talked about you in glowing terms, but honestly, I told them that you almost brought me to tears. The whole group was singing your praises and feeling so happy about your progress. I know that this is a small thing to share with you when you are dealing with so much, but I think it is important that you know that your focus, movement quality, and expression is quite beautiful. You have been an amazing part of this community. Thank you. I know that you need to focus your energy to do everything you can to fight this and take care of yourself. If you ever want or need to move, come in. We will welcome you with open arms and promise to just fold you in without making a big deal of it. In the meantime, I will let the pedagogy students know, and if I'm interpreting what you are saying, I can share the basics of what you are dealing with your classmates. Perhaps once we get through midterms. I'll let everyone know how much you enjoy dancing with everyone. You're pretty damn amazing, Alex. If there is anything I can do to support you, please let me know. Judy. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I actually was majestic. Who's to say? But the more important thing, I think I have officially concerned my fear of dance. So regardless of if I'm good or not, I think with that email I can officially say I pushed through and overcame my fear. And regardless of if I'm any good, that is worth celebrating. Alex 2.2, baby! Anyway, I proceeded to do mucho texting before bringing all, and I do mean all, the magic stuff to the Jameses, including my new 20,000 cards of magic bulk I had bought, because I wanted to. So see, ideally, the night was going to be spent using that bulk to make mini decks and fight each other with, but in reality, it was spent sorting that bulk, because, lol, 20,000 cards is like more than one. However, I gave everyone $5 worth of bulk for free, so I think I made it worth their while. Also, Joe did some sleazy deals with me. That man, ... I thought he would cut his friends a break, but no. Got to negotiate for that 50 cents. Regardless, we watched Blue Lock that night, 'twas good, and then I got home, listened to Jake's rendition of the last life update, sent it out, and then started to get nervous for the upcoming PET scan. And as it turns out, that was super justified because the results sucked. I think my emotional state is best represented by the following Blue Lock picture. Yeah. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. I felt that a bit later. When I first got the result, I just felt my stomach drop, and then I felt supremely empty. It's hard to describe. I've never felt like that before, and I really hope I never feel like that again. If abyss could be put into a feeling, that's what it felt like. It was as if the cold vacuum of space inhabited my soul. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I wasn't anything. I was just empty. I just felt like, oh, ... And that's it. I'm trying to capture this feeling and clearly doing a poor job, but it super sucked. And again, probably my least favorite feeling I've ever experienced. I doubt I've ever felt so passive before in my life. I went on a drive in the hopes that I could start the emotional processing journey, but the whole drive I just felt nothing. And I had this overwhelming sense of absurdity. Like, not that I was absurd, but rather that everything else was. Like, just this sense of nihilism and, again, passivity, and also just a radical acceptance, but in a defeated sort of way. I know this might sound odd, but I think in that moment, I got a glimpse of what the Buddhist feeling of nirvana was. Like, Buddhism or ancient Greek Stoicism made sense for the first time. In the face of great pain, just reaching a state of apatheia inside kind of made it better. At least it made the pain of it all go away. I've never had suicidal tendencies. But as far back as I can remember, I've been convinced that for me to die would be among greatest losses the world has ever experienced. Yeah, that's pretty narcissistic, I'll admit, XD. And besides, regardless of my ego, I've always thought killing yourself is just the dumbest idea conceivable. Like, if you have a problem, then fix the problem. Dying is the exact opposite of doing that. If you're really convinced you're worthless, then go become someone's slave or something. But don't just yeet yourself. That's just wasteful. Yeah, I know, a TE Dom kind of thought through and through, XD. What's that meme? You're not worthless. Organs are very valuable in the black market. Yeah, that sort of thought. Anyway, the point is, never have I ever had suicidal tendencies. I always have thought dying to get out of your problems was idiotic and to the nth degree. And those statements are all still true. Well, if you ever find me dead with a suicide note, just know that some murderer picked the wrong guy to frame, because while that's a plausible scenario for everybody else, it just isn't for me. But as I was driving along that ridgeline and had the intrusive thought to go off the edge, my response to myself wasn't, haha, what a dumb idea. Rather, I just thought, makes as much sense as everything else, but that decision sounds like a lot of effort. In other words, there was no, bad sense in me about dying, just a hollow apathy that was too apathetic to even turn the wheel. That's how I felt. And yeah, when I first got cancer, I felt something like that. And when standard treatment didn't work, I felt something like that. But this was the first time I have ever felt such pervasive apathy. Apathy that seeps into your bones. And I think that's because, at least from my perspective, at the moment, I had done everything. There was nothing else to be done. I had learned all the alternative treatment things and followed what I learned flawlessly. I had prayed and had literally hundreds of people interceding for me. Heck, I even flew to California in search of a miracle. I had done the very best I could do, and my very best wasn't enough. That was why I was so crushed. There's a different feeling to staring up at a mountain of a challenge like cancer and being like, okay, this is going to super suck, but if I just do, insert idea, I can make it. That feeling is unpleasant, don't get me wrong, but I can work with that. In fact, I kind of revel the challenge. Life and death stakes, let's go, bring it on. But when you're out of options, when there's nothing you can do to alter the odds, that feeling is crippling. And that's how I felt. In that moment, I stopped believing cancer might kill me and genuinely accepted that it would. Now, I would like to interject and say that I'm not saying what I ought to believe, just what I did believe. I don't believe that anymore, nor do I think it was really reasonable to believe that. But when facing something like this, sometimes your rational faculties aren't the ones in control. So all that to say, I got home still feeling hollow, and I gave the news to the family. They were distressed, and then eventually, as the hours wore on, Mom asked me what I would like to eat. As you all know, I had eaten nothing but super healthy food for the last 112 days, so I was like, screw it, and said, pizza. It was only at this point that Mom cried. Not when I told her the cancer news or said I would likely be choosing to move to salvage therapy. No, she cried when I said I wanted to eat pizza. And then, when she came back home with pizza, she brought back a healthy veggie pizza with no meat. And while it may sound absurd at first, that veggie pizza is what broke me out of my apathy. Not because I just hate veggie pizza that much. I couldn't care less about the pizza. No, the reason I went into my shower and sobbed was because it was only then that it hit me that no one understood what I was going through. In that moment, she didn't see me, an individual human. She saw a son, and in him the failure of the ideal of healthy living. And according to that ideal, if you just eat healthy enough, do the things your body is supposed to do, you'll get better. You'll be healed from any disease, even cancer. But the catch is, the ideal can suffer no deviation. It's perfect. There is no room for error. So when I, the primary vessel and proof for the ideal, faltered, she didn't try to salvage me, but but rather she tried to salvage the ideal I carried with me. And that's why she bought me a healthy pizza, not the unhealthy pizza I desired. In the context of Alex, eating a single unhealthy pizza means almost nothing. Nothing at all. But in the context of an ideal, it means everything. At that moment, I believed that's why she didn't cry when she learned my cancer had grown, but rather she cried when she learned I wanted to eat pizza, because I had abandoned her ideal that she deeply believed in. And it's not like Mom was the only one. Earlier that day, once I had just gotten back from my PET scan, I passed Dad in the kitchen, and he stopped me and started asking me details about my PET scan experience. How was it? Who did it? How did it feel? Questions I find vexingly irrelevant, and he knows I feel that way about such questions. And of course, because I was distressed, I responded curtly, "Please don't ask me dumb questions right now." In response to which, Dad got angry and gave me a lecture about how I needed to be more kind. And he's right. In that moment, I did not fully instantiate the ideal of kindness. Not like I was particularly unkind, but yes, my tone did communicate my irritation. But that's just the point. In that moment, Dad didn't see me. He didn't see the pain I was in. He saw a son that violated his ideal of respect, and so he acted accordingly. Now, maybe this is all a little raw for Life Update emails, and maybe I really should keep this to myself and not broadcast such a hard truth to all of you. But the fact that I might be going beyond reasonable boundaries of sharing is in many ways precisely my goal. Because what I want to say is this: I am not just a vessel for your ideals. I don't care what the ideal is. Courage, intelligence, the love of Christ, naturopathy, perseverance, whatever it is, I can't carry it for you. I'm just too weak. Ideals are perfect. I am not. So whatever the ideal you have placed upon me, that you have entrusted me to carry and sustain for you, be assured, I will drop it and it will shatter, because that's what it means for me to be human. Am I courageous? Absolutely. But sometimes I'm scared out of my mind. Am I intelligent? Bet on it. But sometimes I make dumb decisions. Do I show the love of Christ? I hope so. But sometimes I fail. Am I trying to cure myself naturally? I am right now. But I may denounce it as a sham someday. Do I always persevere? I have thus far, but there may come a day when I don't. The point is, and I'm not calling out Mom and Dad in particular, we all do this. I just ask that you remember that I am human. I am not your hero, nor your villain. Not a success or a failure. I'm a person, and just a person. Do I strive to embody all those ideals? Yes, every day. And I'm not saying ideals aren't important and they're not worth fighting for. It's important that you strive to embody faith, that you demand others to embody kindness. Ideals are deeply important. But we as people are not the ideals we carry. And sometimes, especially as I'm going through this cancer journey, I'm confident people have forgotten that. So to those of you that can hear me, I just ask you to see me and not the ideals I embody, especially through this cancer journey when I need you all the most. So that way, when I stumble and it's your ideal that I drop, you can help me put it back together. Instead of the ideal, you can help put me back together instead of the ideal I once carried for you. And to the best of my ability, I'll try to do the same for all of you. So yeah, all that to say, I felt very unseen at that moment. Yet, with some good old prayer, I was able to get back up again, even in the face of a veggie pizza. I'm going to take a drink really quick. So yeah, that's my little sermon. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk. Basically, it was really, really rough. Definitely the worst I've felt emotionally in my life. But hey, at least I was feeling something. Oof. However, after eating all the junk food I hadn't been able to in ages, a healthy dose of depression moping around, and also reading and rereading some seriously good letters, I finally started to pull myself back together and get to work on actually fixing the problem. The next day, I woke up and drove down to the Sound Clinic in Denver to get my fungus problem checked out. Turns out there is a strong correlation between fungus and lymphoma, so maybe if I deal with this thing, it will help my cancer battle. Regardless, I did the drive. It took a lot of willpower, but I had been on a waiting list for months to see these guys, so I couldn't let the opportunity pass me by. While there, I also got a methylation test done, which should help me tell me how well I absorb nutrients and vicariously how to better absorb them. Which I don't know when I get that result back, hopefully soon. That was all quite expensive, but good. Well, except for when the blood draw lady stuck me poorly and multiple times. That sucked. Once I got back home, I did cancer research, a bit of food tube. Went to this useless workout training, also scheduled a while back, and then I talked with the fam some before buying more junk food and doing more research till bed. The next morning was just lovely. I went into my oncologist appointment, and McFarland borderline yelled at me the whole time. He did that thing where you let it be silent, and as soon as the other person starts to talk, you talk over them. Yeah, he was really mad, and it was not a conversation by any means. He told me I was an idiot for not choosing salvage, and I was going to die, and at the end of it, when I made it clear I wouldn't be peer pressured into his treatment, he said if I wasn't going to listen to his recommendations, then he wasn't willing to treat me. So yeah, I basically got dumped by my oncologist after being yelled at for half an hour. I'm seeing a new guy now. Let's hope it's a better experience. It was at this point I decided that my best option was to do a ketogenic diet. So I started on this fasting kit Mom had, but which didn't get me into ketosis though. I didn't know that until later because I was just spending all my time researching. I then proceeded to fill out paperwork, respond to people, talk with 2 different cancer ladies, which were conversations. I then continued scheduling things and calling places and doing all that cancer stuff until 7 at night. So I basically did cancer stuff from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, and then at that point I was worn out, so I took a break and did magic stuff till 10 before going to sleep. The next day, I worked from when I woke up till 4 in the afternoon on just cancer stuff with very small breaks in between. I was in full TE destroy the problem mode, and hence, I got a ton done. I then started on a legit ketogenic diet because I finally had time to pay attention to what I was eating, and it took experimentation over the next week or so before I got into significant and consistent therapeutic ketosis. I then worked on some magic stuff for about 3 hours before getting back to work, explaining cancer stuff and doing more research until bed around 10. The next morning, I was able to calm down a bit. I had got all the balls rolling, and now I just had to wait for the cancer bureaucracy to get back to me. It all moves agonizingly slow. Like, for example, it took MD Anderson 13 days to even get to the point where they scheduled my appointment. When you're dying, that is a very, very long time to wait. And on top of that, being a TE Dom and those kinds of time frames are agonizing. I had to read perspective just to keep my sanity. Regardless, it did allow me to rest a bit, as there was nothing more I could do now. It was just waiting and non-time sensitive research. Hence, I worked on some magic deck stuff, started reading a new book on the science of metabolic ketosis, and then I had my first bit of social contact since news when Karina came over. We just sat in the living room listening to a Pint with Aquinas podcast together for a while, and then we went on a drive where we just listened to music, and I drove way above the speed limit. Very few words were said the whole time, but honestly, that was just what I needed. She was there, even though she didn't say much. Her just being there helped me immeasurably. Just a tangential note to all you fellow extroverts. I know it often feels like other extroverts are the big social players and introverts like Karina are background characters and thus not significant. But let me tell you, none of the extroverts could have met me where I was at in that moment. Only someone like Karina could. So I guess I'm just saying don't underestimate the introverts and quiet people of the social world. Sometimes They're the most powerful and almost always the most sincere. The ones that are really there for you through thick and thin. Anyway, all that to say, I really appreciated Karina in that moment. Once she left, I then talked with Ben for a while, before then journeying to Noah's house for some Magic with him and Joe. That also really helped me get back on my feet emotionally, because we just played Magic and that was all we needed to do. In hindsight, the trip really was one of the best investments I ever made, because the friends I've walked away with are amazing. The next morning I woke up a bit early, made myself eggs, and braved Southgate. It's always so hard going back to church after bad news, especially when I'm still recovering emotionally. But every time I'm glad I do it, and this was no exception. Once I got home, read my ketosis book, worked on my Magic stuff for a bit until Benj arrived. I then played 2 hours of racquetball with him. I won 3 and lost 5. Overall, they were very good games, and I started giving him a run for his money again. As of late, he's just been trouncing me. Once I got back from that, Katie and Emerson, correctly spelled XD, were at the house. So me, Ben, Benj, Grace, Katie, and Emerson all went to Alley Cat and did basically nothing. Thankfully, I brought my book, and thus was able to do research for those 3 hours, so it was by no means a waste. And there were some points of good vibes for sure. And that was basically the night. The next day, I did FoodTube, read, went to work, and during work, crafted my super simple, super helpful, super dosage sheet 2.0. Again, min-maxed for optimal absorption of my increasingly complex regime of drugs and supplements. I also did more cancer research at work. I then happened to come across Notebook LM, which I put at the start of this email. But the next thing that happened was the most significant for me. Namely, I met an oncology person that was actually smart. See, ages ago, Becky Dawson ran across this lady and contacted her, asking if she'd be willing to talk to me. And only now, like a month later, did she get back to us and say yes. So, I talked with this woman named Maya, and oh my gosh, she's intelligent. First oncologist that could answer all my questions and clearly knew what she was doing. I got very strong TE vibes from her. Hence, she was immensely helpful, especially because she, like me, is trying to cure her own cancer, and she succeeded after, also like me, failing on a plant-based diet. So, I don't know. That gives me hope. Pivoting to this carnivore keto diet really might move the needle. But let's not get too hopeful. Wink. Anyway, absolutely fabulous conversation. Best I've had thus far. After that wrapped up, I went to Joe's house for Monday night, wherein Magic was played and Blue Lock watched. Once I got back home, I told the fam the plan on how we needed to pivot based on what Maya told me, and Mom and Dad didn't like the 180 shift in direction, but they understood why I was doing what I was doing by the end. Finally, I then read and took notes on my ketosis book while eating pork rinds and drinking tea until midnight. Pork rinds have become my new peanut butter chips, cause lol, I can't have more than 5 carbohydrates a day, so pork rinds are like all I can eat, XD. The next day, I ate food and did various cancer things before, through a string of connections, getting access to the best thing ever, the drug black market. See, I have a huge problem I've had this whole time. There's lots of prescription drugs you can't get access to, but that I need, unless you have some legit doctor prescribe them to you. Well, not anymore, baby. I now have a way to purchase almost any drug I want, and as much as I want, without a prescription at all, even chemo drugs. The site is super hush-hush, and you can only get in by personal referral, so I can't just blab the info. But you need some drugs? Perhaps we can strike a deal. Wink. Anyway, that was super exciting because now I can buy all my cancer drugs myself and for cheap. So that is just fantastic. I then proceeded to have a really good conversation with the salvage and stem cell transplant guy, Dr. Mountjoy. At the end of it, he still wanted me to do salvage, obviously, but regardless, it was a very human and genuine conversation, unlike some other oncology appointments I could speak of. So yeah, that, combined with the black market access, made it a good day. Once I got home, I did more cancer stuff. Then the clinic in Arizona canceled their call with me because their incompetent PR rep misspelled my email instead of just copying and pasting it, and hence blamed me for not being at the meeting in time when I was never sent a link. Look, I'm all right with incompetence. We all make mistakes. But I'm not all right with you blaming me for your incompetence. That's not cool. So anyway, that meeting got rescheduled. I then printed out my dosage sheet and got organized, which felt fantastic. Thereafter, I went over to Alley Cat and talked with Amelia and her boyfriend Nathan, who it turns out is an INTP. And that was fun. Quite enjoyed both of them. Then I read my book some more until Benj came over once again and we played racquetball. This time with me winning 3 and losing 4. Closing that gap. And they were all very close games. After we got back from that, I went to Alley Cat with Grace, just because she wanted to get out of the house and didn't want to go alone, and studied while she did her thing, and then that was the night. The next morning, I found my 100 tiny glass vials had arrived in the mail for splitting up the dosing of my liquid supplements, so I washed them, which was much harder to do than you would think. I talked with Mrs. Pavlovich, did YouTube, did cancer stuff, and then talked to Sydney over at the Crooked Cup for like an hour. Then her and Neo came over to my place and did stuff with magic cards. And then as soon as they left, I got to work making all my pillboxes for the next week, and oh my gosh, it took 4 hours. Actually ages. But I did get it done. After that, I took what remained of the night and used it to read and drink tea before going to sleep. The next morning, I started my modified supplement regimen and thankfully tolerated it very well. I then drove to Boulder, where I met with an oncologist who is willing to treat me with conventional therapies, but without following the chart or requiring stem cell transplant. That is fantastic and like the best news I've heard in ages. Hence, if this doesn't work, I'm most likely pivoting in that direction, as previously described. Once I got back, I then did Funime, took a nap, attended various cancer calls and such, finished my scholarly ketosis book. I now understand metabolic ketosis quite well, before working out and then briefly relaxing and doing stuff with magic cards before going to bed. The next morning, I called the Arizona Center, and they are willing to take me on when I'm ready. So that backup plan is a go. I then went to work, worked on this life update email, read when I got back home, attended a run to Ace with Grace, where she got, that's funny, Ace with Grace. Ace is the Grace with the helpful hardware, folks, or something to that effect, where she got pretty, hold up. I need to reread this. I distracted myself with the Ace hardware theme song. I attended a run to Ace with Grace, where she got pretty privilege, which she was very excited about XD. And then I talked with Ben some. Had a rare instance of waste time, hung out with John, and played Magic, and then went on a run, and was finally able to nail down ketosis. Prior to this point, I had kept going in and out as my pills contained some carbs. Not exactly sure how many. I wasn't sure on how many protein or carbs I could eat before my body yeeted me. But after this point, I've hit therapeutic ketosis and have been able to stay there, so that's been excellent. The next morning, I chugged a little glass of MCT oil in hopes it would give me the boost of energy I needed to beat Benj at racquetball. But instead, it just made me very nauseous and performed so much worse. After that, Benj came over to the house and we ate together while watching Saga of Tanya the Evil. Still going through that anime like a year later, XD. Then we had a small volleyball game, followed by a much larger volleyball game for Johanna's birthday, before everyone went to eat pizza. I ate meat! Then a group of us went out to Wellington and played laser tag at Layla's family laser tag place, which I really enjoyed. I lost the first game because I didn't understand how things worked, but I won the next 3. So, lol, still got that laser tag prowess. I've basically always scored the highest in laser tag, like almost without exception. I attribute the skill to all the time me and my friends spent freshman year at the summit. Wink. Anyway, I really enjoyed that, and then we all went over to Cannon's house and watched Big Hero 6, which is still just such a well-done movie. After which, I proceeded to engage Elijah in a deep-down convo about salvation that was fun. Haven't had that convo in ages. Yeah, Nessa drove Grace and I back to our house and we called it a night. Yesterday morning, I went to church, socialized like I usually do, aka without cancer depression, ate food, then did a lengthy walk with Jake as we talked, drank tea, and talked to Ben, ate more food, then played some good racquetball with Benj, where I won 3 out of 7 games, so also pretty good. And then we just messed around in the rain tree pool and hot tub until close. And that was basically the day. And as for today, I got the call with MD Anderson, worked on booking a flight and a hotel, and then went to work and worked on this life update. So now, where am I at? Well, it's been an emotional roller coaster of a couple weeks, but in terms of Blue Lock pictures, I now feel like this. I'm going to beat this thing. Watch me.